So for a little bit of context, I do 2 gym sessions a week, a Wednesday and a Sunday, and each one is slightly different because my Wednesday one is slightly lighter as I have a session on a Tuesday and a Thursday. I don't want to be too fatigued going into Thursday's session. And Sunday, I'll just think, right, hard day is hard. I have a long one in the morning, strength session in the afternoon, and so I'll do a sort of heavier session, more leg focused, compared to Wednesday, which is a little bit lighter and has more upper body. And even though I am a runner, I do think it is still important to do upper body work, so don't skip it. I maybe do a bit more than you need to do, but I can always scale it back if I need to anyway. And although you won't really see any core specific work in the movements that I show that I do, that's because I do core workouts as a separate side thing, because I find it just means that I save a bit of time in the gym so that I can be in there for about an hour rather than having to spend even more than that because I'm adding on core work at the end. As you might have guessed, today is Wednesday, so it's my first strength session of the week, so let me take you through what I do. Alright, so getting straight into things, I'm starting with rear foot elevated split squats for all lower body exercises on a Wednesday. I do 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps, and I'll do 4 sets of this exercise before starting with some pull-ups and some calf raises that I superset. And a superset means you just follow one exercise immediately with the other. And I do this because it saves time and just means that I'm not in the gym for as long, and obviously there's very little interference between doing a calf raise and doing a pull-up. The only interference really being that I'm holding a weight during the calf raises, so it means that potentially I'm not fully recovered for the pull-ups, but my goal is not upper body focused, so that doesn't really matter. And as you can see by what I'm doing, it is quite controlled, slow tempos, getting a full range of motion, making sure that on the pull-ups I've gone all the way down and getting full range of motion right to the top, and same with the calf raises, lowering all the way down and maybe going a bit faster when I'm raising my foot back up. But yeah, it's a strong, I do enjoy doing calf raises. I've noticed improvement quite easily because you can see yourself getting stronger when you start to add weights, and it just becomes easier to do more reps, and it's an exercise I think is worth adding in all the time. And now we move into this chest press exercise. I usually do bench press, but that was taken, so I had to use this instead. But essentially it still targets the same sort of muscles, and that's what I focus on my upper body exercises, is making sure I'm getting the most bang for my buck with what I'm doing. So choosing exercises that target a lot of different muscle groups at once, so not having to do loads of different exercises and only targeting one specific muscle like a bicep curl would, for example. Moving on to the hip thrusts, which are lighter on a Wednesday than on a Sunday. I use 70 kilograms rather than my usual 80, just meaning that it's not as fatiguing. I'm still getting a benefit though. And then moving on to the next exercise which we have, which is the rows, and these again I'm trying to do it with good form and control, and choosing a weight that I can do for 3 sets. Again, just another upper body exercise before moving on to the Romanian deadlifts. These are ones that I've changed to be single leg because I find single leg is very useful, obviously as a runner, being a single leg exercise, and I have had to lower the weight a bit because I was getting a bit too much soreness the next day, and do think they are a very good exercise to add in. Just need to be careful with the weight, especially if it's your first time using it, but it's also a good test of balance as well, so definitely a good exercise that I would recommend. And then this is superset with some dips afterwards. I realised after filming that I'm actually going way below 90 degrees, so my range of motion is more than you need, but again, just another good upper body exercise that targets a lot of muscle groups at once. And then moving on to the hip, ab and adductions. After recording the voiceover for this, I can say that I did go slightly too heavy on these, and I could feel it in my glutes during the session the next day, but didn't affect me too much. If you don't know what an ab or adduction is, what I'm doing here is the adductions, so you move your legs apart from you and you can feel it in the hips and glutes, and the abductions is essentially the same thing, but you're closing your legs together instead, and those little black pieces would be in between my legs instead of on the outside. For the last exercise, which are these rear delt flies, again this would be superset with either the hip, ab or adductions, and it's not really a necessary exercise, it doesn't target as many muscle groups, but I sort of just add it in because I'm still going with my lower body exercises and just do it to round off the session. Right, gym session done, and I did do it later than usual. I usually do it around 7 o'clock and didn't end up starting until nearly 7:30. But yeah, it took me just over an hour because I had to wait for a couple of machines at the end, but usually it does take just under an hour, which is what I like. That's why I do supersets, as I talked about earlier, with exercises, because it just speeds it up. Otherwise, you know, I'd be in there for like close to an hour and a half, and obviously it does mean that, you know, your heart rate gets a little higher because you're not during your rest you're doing another exercise. But if that exercise is targeting a completely different muscle group, then it doesn't matter too much, because obviously you're not fatiguing the same muscle twice. But yeah, in terms of the workout, it actually went better than usual. It wasn't just my usual standard, because for the pull-ups I did 12 reps, then 11, then 10, which is more than I usually do. I usually try to get 30 across the 3 sets. So to get 33 only sounds like 3 more, but with pull-ups 3 more is actually quite a lot. And yeah, I just felt stronger, which again is surprising, because coming off my holiday I didn't really expect that. I thought maybe I've lost a little bit of strength, but I guess maybe because it was only 2 weeks, that's not really enough time to lose strength, and maybe it just meant that, you know, I recovered a bit, even though I only train my upper body twice a week, so you think I don't really need that much recovery. But also my legs felt strong as well, so maybe I just had a bit more energy today. But yeah, overall happy with that, and not feeling like I've overdone anything, feeling as though I still feel pretty fresh for my interval session tomorrow, which is what I want from Wednesday strength session. Hello, you've caught me doing my Friday mini strength routine, which consists of just banded and bodyweight exercises. I do 2 to 3 rounds of 6 exercises back to back to target the hips, the hamstrings, the quads, the calves, the glutes. Well, I don't do this every week, I do it as often as possible for a little bit of injury prevention. Back at it with another voiceover. So if you watch my day in the life video, you'll know a lot of my strength routine already on a Sunday, and not much has really changed. It's still very much power and strength focused. So I start with box jumps for a bit of explosive power and speed when I'm freshest, before supersetting with overhead press, another very solid upper body exercise, which is followed by trap bar deadlifts, similar to a normal deadlift, but targets muscles in your glutes slightly differently and can allow you to lift a slightly heavier weight as well. Again, a very good compound lift just for building strength, and these are superset with that same chest press exercise that I did on Wednesday, so I just used the same clip again rather than having to ask another stranger to film me. I'll follow this with some squats. At this point I'm quite out of breath because I'm supersetting left, right, center. These are actually only half squats because I can use a much heavier weight and be much more powerful, only having to go halfway down before sort of exploding up, so you don't quite target all the muscles, but you do help to build a lot more speed and power by doing this. And then this follows with the last upper body exercise that I do, which is rows, another good exercise for your back. Looking at this, I can tell my back's not completely straight, but it's still fairly decent form, and these will be followed with some hip thrusts, which as you saw, I did on Wednesday, but this time is heavier, again to focus more on power. And as I only have an easy run the next day, or 2 easy runs, then it doesn't matter too much if my glutes are a little bit sore. That then follows the last 2 exercises, which are step ups, and I've managed to increase the weight slightly now to 30 kilograms, really focusing on driving the knee so that I'm generating good force before moving into the last exercise, which is again some classic calf raises. And this is the same reps and weight as Wednesday, just building good calf tolerance to eventually progressively overload with weight. So there you have it. That is my strength routine as a runner. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone who helped film me. Didn't have to do that, I didn't know anyone, and they're probably not watching this video, but it was greatly appreciated. Of course, if you've got any questions about my strength training, if you think that I'm personally doing anything wrong, you've got maybe some advice for me, then feel free to leave that in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.